Welcome to the Value Pros Show, where Value Pros get value ready. Hi, my name is Bruce Scheer, the host of the Value Pros Show. In this episode, we are talking with A. Lee Judge, a seasoned expert in sales and marketing alignment and the author of Align Your Revenue Team for Success with Cash. The world of sales and marketing has changed dramatically. The buyer is now the captain, steering their own journey, making decisions long before they ever engage with a salesperson. So how do sales and marketing teams work together in this new reality? Lee has spent decades in the trenches, bridging the gap between these two functions, and he's here to share his insights on how companies can break down silos and create a high-performing revenue engine. We'll be diving into his cash framework, communication, alignment, systems, and honesty, and exploring how organizations can shift their approach to match the way modern buyers make decisions. If sales and marketing alignment isn't a priority for you yet, it should be, and Lee's insights will show you why. Let's get into it. Well, Lee, thanks so much for joining the show. I'm really excited about this conversation with you today. Lee, I've been just kind of immersing myself in your book, and it's really rich. There's a lot there, and thankfully, because it's really well written. Some of the things in the review that I wrote for you, verified review, I might add. Now, I'll ask everybody watching the show, get the book, you're going to love it, and leave Lee a verified review so the world can celebrate this thing. But the thing I was loving the most about it probably is, A, it was steeped in your deep, been there, done that experience. And, I see a lot of books where you don't have that experience base behind it, but the stories you tell in there, you've been there, done that, you've seen it all. For better or for worse.
Seen a few things.
I know you got some battle scars. The other thing that I liked is you kind of brought in some big gun experts. I know you yourself are rocking it in terms of this whole world of sales and marketing alignment, but you did bring in some big guns with their points of view just to kind of anchor on some of the concepts that you were teaching within the book and illustrating. And I thought that was really powerful too. So just really well played. And for everybody here, you'll find Lee's book out on Amazon, other popular places, but I'd encourage you to go out and get a copy of it if sales and marketing alignment is a concern for you. And if it's not, I'm concerned for you because it's a big issue. And I see it day in and day out, not a good thing. So Lee, if you wouldn't mind, just tell us a little bit about, the book and why you wrote it principally. And you let me know when you want to jump into a story that talks about pork chops.
Okay. Well, thanks, Bruce. Thanks for having me. Well, so the book came about after about 20 years or so being between sales and marketing. Now, I've been marketing a few years before that, but it came to a point where, because of some of my technical background, I was given the ownership of the CRM. And so my task was to help sales put things in Salesforce and, give more data to the business for forecasting. And so here I was, a marketing person tasked with working smack dab between sales and marketing. And that became my career for the next 20 years. And I saw some unique things, and I got a chance to sit in on both sides, meetings for sales, meetings for marketing. I realized how separate these teams were. And I found out there's about 4 things that cause these teams to either not work together or to be inefficient at driving the company forward towards revenue. And so the 4 things, and I've been taking notes the whole time, since the beginning of this career. I'm taking notes thinking one day I'm going to write a book about these experiences. And so the 4 things that stuck out the most were communication, alignment, systems they used, and honesty. And it just so happens those made a wonderful acronym of CASH that both marketers and salespeople especially understand and love the word cash, because a business has to have cash to operate. And in this sense, with this acronym, these 4 things, communication, alignment, systems, and honesty, we need those 4 things to operate as well.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. At the end of the day, you need a great economic underpinning. You need some cash.
Yeah.
That makes the
Gotta have
whole
some
thing
cash.
spin right. And when you don't, it don't spin right. And I love how you use
That's right.
GASH as your acronym for explaining this. Fantastic. But Houston, we do have a problem. The ship is going down, and we got to deal with this, Lee. So tell us, what you found, and I think it wasn't necessarily overly pretty. Tell us a story.
Well, so this particular company I just began working at in marketing, and they were going through a transition. The CEO had come back out of semi-retirement to run the company and build it back up. The sales team had been diminished quite a bit. The marketing team was gone. I was the new number one employee for marketing as this company was transitioning. And I'm going through the marketing closet trying to find out, okay, there was a marketing team here before. What artifacts did they leave to give me a hint of what they've been doing? So I go into the marketing closet and I find a big box of plastic pork chops. And I'm thinking, what in the world? What was the campaign? This is a software company for customer experience. So I just, I kept thinking all these crazy, like, what kind of slogan or logo or trade show gimmick was this for them to need a box of plastic pork chops? So, long story short, I never did find out what the plastic pork chops were for. But I did find out that that was a representation of how marketing was viewed. They were a cost center that spent money on cheap giveaways for trade shows. And the whatever was spent on this campaign was some plastic pork chops that were left in the closet. They're not selling software or helping sales to sell anything. They were a cost center. And I realized that's where my starting point was. How do I bring this marketing team out of the cost center and into the profit center column?
Oh my God, yeah, and sadly, there's still organizations operating that way. That marketing is a cost center, and they're the event support team, and
You
just
make it pretty, team.
yeah, oh gosh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I just came back from CES earlier last month, and man, I'd see them spending millions and millions on that type of stuff. So it does matter, but what you are saying is, hey, it's so much more than just event support and swag. So let's get into it a little bit. And it sounds like your journey was elevating marketing with sales. So maybe, Lee, we could turn the corner and talk about what good looks like a little bit. Do you want to start with I guess anchoring the problem? Sales and marketing, very often they're two separate functions doing two separate things. But I think you also at the time, I don't even know if there was a term for it, Lee, but would you have said you were in the revenue operations role at that point, or?
Well, that wasn't a term that I used back then, I even heard back then.
Hmm.
But I was being placed in that position because at
Yeah.
that time, the CEO was a salesperson who was hired because of his sales acumen. And I often reported directly to him. And so he was really adamant about marketing making sense to sales and making
Hmm.
sure that whatever we spent on marketing contributed to revenue. So yeah, before the phrase was popular or used often, I was definitely in that position of revenue ops, because I was running the marketing automation platform. I was running the sales operations platform and all the interconnectivity between those. So yes, it was absolutely revenue ops.
Very
And
cool.
you're showing
Yeah.
this picture here, and that came from many instances where I'm the marketer standing outside looking through the glass window of the sales meetings, thinking, you know, I have all their data. Like I'm the one who's, moving around what happens in marketing, what happens in sales. I know what their customers are doing. And, the reports that are on the screen, I created them. So why am I not in the meeting? I'm the marketer, but because my title was marketing, and regardless of what I've been doing in sales and with sales, my title was marketing. So I wasn't called to the meeting. And so what I found out was, well, first of all, I pushed myself into the meetings. I said, "Hey, let me there's a meeting tomorrow. Let me sit in on that meeting." And there wasn't a pushback of saying, "No, you can't come." It was just more or less, "Why is marketing here?" So as a marketer sitting in the meeting, I got some really interesting insights, like what really drives the sales team right now? Like what product is their bread and butter? What products do they prefer to sell? What objections are they getting from customers? That's a gold mine for marketing because while marketing's working on this trade show or this new brochure or website, we're writing content based on marketing research, perhaps what we think is going on, But what if we hear 3 salespeople say, look, I've gotten the same objection that my other colleagues here have gotten. It's because the buttons on our interface for our product are out of order. That's a problem that marketing needs to address. And it could be anything from a line on a website to a whole campaign to say, hey, our product is the most ergonomically correct in its field. All of a sudden, marketing has gotten out ahead and helped sales sell while the customer's doing their own research. But those things don't happen if marketing isn't in the meeting. So I'll stop talking, but it goes both ways, in terms
Oh,
of
I love
who's
it.
in the meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, you made me think of a few different things. And you know that my firm, we, very often start with our clients and thinking about a value narrative. And I believe I told you, Lee, a story about Tableau and how we were building a value narrative just before their IPO. And they wanted to start getting bigger deals, go after a new customer segment, enterprise accounts, if you would, not do the typical product-led growth of land and expand, but actually head upstairs and say, hey, it makes strategic sense for you guys as a whole to be more data-driven at the time. But how did we build a narrative? We included, the CMO and her office. We included sales. We included product and the product leaders, all coming together, having a dialogue about what is our story? What's our sales narrative, our value narrative? How do we go out and create value for our customers? Did we stop there? No. We went out. I got the Tableau executives involved because we, created a value narrative that we wanted to use to target people like themselves, those executives. And I talked to their CFO, talked to their product leader, their chairman, et cetera, testing this value narrative. And then we went out to their customers as well to test that value narrative. So just, I love how you're talking about sales and marketing being tied at the hip, but sometimes you can even go further. And I loved Mark Schaefer's story in your book, Lee, about how he, or go ahead and tell us what you remember about your interview with him. That'd be great.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as you mentioned what you did. And it's
Yeah.
similar to what Mark said, because in his previous career in sales, he was saying that, he had worked in marketing and in sales, so they trusted him as someone who's been in both areas,
Mm.
similar to my story. But there was an instance where, or a time when the sales team, the marketing team, and the technologist would make a regular trip out to their customers and have conversations with them.
Yeah.
And that added so much value, not only in the particular customer that we're talking to, but also understanding the market and responding to the market better because they had all 3 people in the same room. And that's important. Even when you add in the technologists, maybe that's version 2 of the book, is to add in, the product team. But to
Yeah.
have all those people in there, they understand what's important to the customer and how they can work together to satisfy that customer, because they'll hear different things. If you send a salesperson, a marketing person into a customer,
Mm.
they will both hear different things.
Yeah.
And they need to go back to the office or get back together and say, okay, this is what you heard. This is what I heard. How do we pull this together to benefit not only that customer, but future customers as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so critical. Yeah, the thing that Mark also highlighted, I remember from your story with him, Lee, is they had a rigorous process. And, we do that type of work as well, where, it's called voice of the customer research. But where you go in, and Mark talked about that account specific, they did that for their huge elephant accounts, if you would, and, figuring out how they could improve their game there. But then also you glean learnings that flow back into product enhancement, marketing strategy, sales strategy, based on that concerted approach that they were taking. It's a huge investment, as Mark had called out, but oh man, can it pay off? When that's done right. Very, very powerful. Well, Lee,
Absolutely.
this is a good one to think about. Just we need to start bringing together, because they have to be together, versus disjointed activities. And I thought if you wanted to highlight for the audience, I really love this from the book, your perspective about a revenue team's sweet spot and just starting with people, which I always love to hear. Tell us what you were thinking here.
Well, because, as I worked on trying to be that unicorn between sales and marketing and understanding both teams, I realized we're all on a spectrum of, you have your most amazing marketers who are the most creative and maybe the most analytical, but they don't understand sales. They don't understand the bottom line. What are we trying to achieve here? We're not trying to achieve the best marketing. We're trying to achieve revenue for the company. So on the left side of the continuum, you have the marketer who doesn't quite understand sales. On the far right side of the continuum, you have the salesperson who thinks it's all about them and they can just go in, close a deal, and they don't understand marketing. They don't understand that marketing helped them get there. They don't understand the skills or the analytics involved in marketing. So that's the far right of the continuum. And so what you have is either a marketer on one side with nothing to sell, or you have somebody who's selling who has no market to sell to.
Mm.
So I think ideally, if you're a marketer, your ideal place to be is between halfway and then the extreme marketing side, meaning that you're well steeped in marketing, but you also understand sales. And on the other end of that, the best place for the salesperson to be is halfway between the middle and then the super salesperson. Now, in between this good marketer and this good salesperson, I'd say the unicorn. And there's two things between these two. Well, there's this area that I call the revenue team sweet spot, which is anybody who falls between an amazing marketer and an amazing salesperson. Everybody in that area, that's your revenue team. Those are people who understand sales and marketing together enough to make sure the company's working to build revenue, not to be amazing marketers or amazing salespeople, which don't understand the whole picture, but a revenue team. In the middle, there are a few people who are unicorns who really get both. Even I don't claim that. I'm probably just marketing side of unicorn. I don't claim to be a career salesperson, despite the number of hours I've spent in those seats and working with sales. So that diagram's in the book, and I encourage anyone to compare that to their organization and the people who they have in sales and marketing, and try to set a goal of having everyone on your sales or marketing teams to be in that revenue sweet spot so that you can actually drive revenue versus working just in silos.
I love it. I love it. When we do sales kickoff work, or I try to frame it more towards revenue team kickoff. And we'll build playbooks, go to market playbooks. Say it's a new segment, new market, new opportunity, new partnership, joint partnership. When we bring people together, I just love bringing product marketing and sales together. Very often it has a very distinct revenue sales driven type of focus, but having everybody there to appreciate and cross fertilize is so important. Lee, another story I wanted to mention with you. I personally worked in a wood products mill going through college, and I paid for my college education. Really proud about that. But yeah, I was a working man, especially on Christmas holidays and summers. I was in a mill, and one of my first couple of weeks in the mill, the plant manager stopped by my station, and I'm just stacking wood, coming off a big
Mhm,
saw. And he
mhm.
told the guy, the operator, hey, shut the saw. And he goes, hey, take a break. I want to spend some time with Bruce. And I'm like, just going, wow, that's kind of fun. What's up? And his name was Dave. So Dave walked me through the plant to another station. And he was going, hey, Bruce, do you see those guys over there? And do you see that big stack of wood that's on the ground? He goes, that came from you. And I did, Lee, I just have this big oh shit moment. There's this big stack of wood laying on the ground, just a bunch of sticks, big pile, and it was a waste pile effectively. And he
Uh,
goes, yeah, what's going on, Bruce, is you're passing wood through to them that they can't use in assembling into the doors that they're making, because it's got too many jagged edges. And I'm like just going, geez, Dave, I didn't know. And he goes, yeah, I knew you didn't. That's why I wanted to show you what's going on here.
that's
So you
important.
would know, and you can know what's happening downstream with the things that you're doing. And so anyways, of course, I paid attention moving forward and didn't pass stuff along, kind of caught it upstream. But I bring that story, even though it's a wood products mill, just that
Mhm.
shared, perspective and appreciation for what each activity's doing, I think is really critical. And I think that's what you bring into this sweet spot, that shared respect and understanding of how you can help one another to what really matters, drive revenue growth.
Yeah, and there's a couple places in the book where I refer to a communication loop and how it's traditional for sales to say, well, the leads aren't good coming in, so that's why my day isn't going great because the leads are crap. Well, the book encourages companies to help sales take responsibility for that situation because if sales takes the stance to help marketing understand the target customer, understand what the customer needs to know and understand, then it means those leads are either going to be the better targeted or better educated and more warm when they come to sales. But in order to educate that prospect, in order to warm them up, you have to have input from sales to do so. So if marketing is going out there by themselves and just doing their own analytics and their own market research, it could be interesting to them from a
Hmm.
market standpoint. But what about for that company? What about for your particular product? That has to come from the boots on the ground, from your sales team. So if your leads are coming in, they're not targeted well or they're not warm enough. Let's take it from sales to say, hey, marketing, let's have a meeting together and see why this lead isn't good and why this lead is good. How can we help you target better on the ones we want to receive? So it's a shared responsibility, so that we don't end up with that wood pile of leads that you can't use. Let's figure out how do we work together to sharpen the blade, and everybody gets training on how to get it, smoothed out so we can use everything that we put into the top of the funnel.
Oh, Lee, here I hear you with sadness, but also opportunity. One of my clients, I won't mention him by name, but $2 billion company, global,
Mm.
and they do an annual State of the Union type of survey. And the guy reached out to me. I was talking to him, and I was saying, "Hey, would you be interested in knowing what sales is focusing on for the next year?" There's
Mm.
8 key use cases that they'll be speaking about and talking, highlighting customer pains around and talking about your solutions that you've been investing tons of R&D in to bring to those customers to solve for those problems, those use cases. Would you be interested? And he goes, "Damn, I'd love that." And I'm like, I was hoping you'd say that because that might help you design some of the questions you ask in your survey and get some
Mm.
better, real authoritative data around the importance of those use cases and how they can really move the dial for other prospective customers. And he's like going, "Yeah, Bruce, send it over, man. I'm in." But gosh, you just need to make those bridges. I'll tell you.
Yeah, that reminds me of another story in the book where I realized as a marketer, we were working on this campaign, pushing really hard. We had, email campaigns and website updates and everything for this new particular product, and we couldn't figure out there was something missing. Like sales wasn't motivated, they weren't selling it, they weren't even bugging us about the quality of the leads because they just didn't seem to be engaged in this big new campaign. Now, given there's some underlying management issues that we won't address that are here, but the bigger story is that when the marketing got a chance to sit in on the sales meeting, we realized when they got access to the numbers, the revenue numbers, they found out that the bread and butter from the sales team came from one of the legacy products. They knew they had faster sales, bigger sales. The revenue was strong for the legacy product. So nothing that marketing brought to them that was new was going to excite them. So that wouldn't have that gap would have continued
Hmm.
had those meetings not been merged. So the resolution was marketing can work harder on promoting the older legacy products. And if the company's moving on to something new, then sales will be able to now get some data on, hey, this product is selling great, but it's going to be outdated in a few months or a year. Let's help you look forward and sell this new thing. Here's
Yeah.
what the market is saying about the new product. But that communication has to happen. Otherwise, it would have continued on this track of the parallel but not connected track of them working in two different directions, so to speak. So that's why the communication loop is so important. That's why the meetings together is so important. I mean, that's really the beef of why this book even exists, is trying to solve for those kind of problems.
Yeah. That up and down and side to side, just good communications driving that alignment. Absolutely critical. Lee, I wanted to move us forward on another concept that I just loved that you have in the book, and it's the funnel. The marketing funnel, sales funnel. I love how you coined the revenue funnel. That's what you
The
should be
revenue funnel.
thinking about as you approach this, and also just the fact that I think a lot of people like to put it into a linear model, but and I know, and a lot of people that have kind of been in the battle know that it's not ultimately linear. Things are going on all over the place. Could
Yeah.
you explain this?
Yeah, we often want to say nowadays that the funnel doesn't exist. Well, the funnel really is just our way of trying to visualize and understand if there is a customer journey and how does it go and how the teams work together to get them from unknown to known to a customer. How do you do that? So the visualization of that was a funnel. Start off with many and you narrow them down to the few winners. Well, the funnel at first was understood to be linear, but now we understand that customers, they not only do they hover above the funnel before we even know about them. That's even more so with the searchability and the social media and internet. Since that happened, which has been years now, we just realized it recently. The customers do all the research before they even come near our funnel. Then once they come in the funnel, they come out the side. There you go. They come out the side to go find a buyers group. They come back in the top. It is not linear, and as I said in the book, they are the captains now. They're in control. We do not control this buyer journey. We can call it a funnel for descriptive means and understanding, but there's no longer a marketing brings it in and hands it off to sales, and then it goes away to the sales land and closes. That's no longer existent. Marketing has to be a part of the effort all the way through. Sales can't let go. When they disappear, they need to stay with them as they come back into the funnel. It's just
Hmm.
this mess of a traffic in and out the sides of the
Hmm.
funnel before they come back in. And they are truly the captains now. We wanted to think when we had this funnel that we made this customer journey, that sales made a customer journey or marketing made a customer journey. That no longer exists. That's where the I am the captain now analogy comes from. The customer, it is their journey to guide, and it is our job to try to help them along the way wherever they may happen to be that particular day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting. The world of the buyers changed. And Lee and I were kind of laughing for people seeing this episode on YouTube. I'm showing a little meme of Tom Hanks and then the person that, the pirate that took over the ship where Tom Hanks is the captain. And the pirate's going, look at me, look at me. I am the captain now. And, which is true. Right now it's a buyer's journey. And
Mhm.
and their stats to back that up. One of the more recent ones is 70% of the buyer's journey transpires without the buyer even dealing with sales until they start to engage with sales. But then, as Lee talks about in this kind of interesting random looking funnel. I mean, it is a funnel, but there's some, random acts happening in there where the buyer's kind of in and out. And gosh, all of a sudden the buyer talked to somebody else, another potential buyer within the same organization. Now they're getting into the funnel and having conversations. So that, things just happen, especially around B2B and high consideration decisions. And that's where it's really important for sales and marketing to be in concert, similar messaging, similar approaches that will resonate with those buyers as they move through their decision-making journey. Probably
Bruce,
to
I
build.
gotta share it.
Go ahead.
Before we go, I want to share an interesting story that happened since the book was written in the past few months that
Sure.
really would have made that diagram even more complicated. We had 3 calls from the same company within 2 days, and they all asked for different meetings with us. These were all prospects, and we had done business with this company in the past. And so we thought, okay, it's time for a new project. They probably called from different parts of the same team. They set up 3 meetings. So our email back to them was, hey, you set up 3 different meetings. Would you like to combine this into one? Because even before we had multiple people involved in the sales process. So the funny thing was, nobody knew each other. These were 3 calls from within the same company who all had projects they wanted to do with us, and none of the people knew each other.
Ugh.
And so that just adds a whole nother level of complexity to the buyer journey. They had worked with us before, heard about us. So, they were in our funnel, but not only were they going out and getting buyer groups to bring more people in, these buyer groups were splintering into other buyer groups that then
Yeah.
came into the funnel.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Definitely.
it
Yeah,
gets
and
more and
that's
more
our role
complicated.
too, just to help, connect the dots would be a key word here. A lot of my work with Hewlett Packard's been that way too. Hey, did you know this group's doing this? You guys could, let's get that together.
Mhm.
Just cross fertilizing and helping, and yeah, as the great marketing and sales teams can help make that happen, especially with an account based approach. Perfect. Well, Lee, moving on then, just thinking about, kind of this concertedness and helping people, or helping marketing and sales perform better as part of this high performing revenue engine. I liked your concept that, you're talking about the funnel, but some of the activity that's happening there, and more importantly, just this notion of quality versus quantity. Do you want to talk about that a bit from a content perspective?
Yeah. So you may know I have an agency, a content marketing agency. And, when we launched in 2017, at that time, we were all about, look, you need a lot more content because you don't have enough at the top of the funnel to capture the attention versus your competitors. And to an extent, that is still true. But what has happened is the question of, well, do we produce quality content or quantity content? And the answer is you need to do both, but it's a matter of when, how much you spend on each kind of content, and what is the purpose of that content. We had a client recently come to us and said, hey, we want to compete with content against this competitor. We went to that competitor. That competitor was putting out, they had a podcast, first of all. That podcast was kicking out the audio version, the video version for YouTube. It was kicking out like 4 or 5 social shorts per week. It was also getting views on YouTube. It was searchable and in LinkedIn. They were kicking out a lot of content. Meanwhile, this potential prospect was proud of their one video they did per month. Now, here's the thing. This is how B2B tends to think right now. We're trying to work on changing that. This video they did once per month was what they perceived as quality. This is their perception internal looking out. In other words, they brought in a film crew. They were in their studio. They set up a fake studio in their office. They carefully scripted it. It cost a lot of money to get that 3 or 4 minute video that was not very genuine because it was from the CMO to, I think, the CTO, who was not going to say anything negative about the product. So it just didn't feel authentic enough. And because of the cost, they did one a month. Turn it upside down and look at the competitor who's cranking out stuff, video shorts that they're probably doing like we're doing right now, sitting down, having a conversation, 1 hour conversation, hundreds of pieces of content, possibly, right down to the blogs written from the conversation. So the QBQ, quality versus quantity balance, comes from at the awareness stage, you need to have quantity. In order to compete with your competitor, you have to have more marketing touches. Now, does that mean that it's low quality content? Not necessarily, but it means that your focus should be on quantity.
Mm,
So what we're struggling with is, how do we define quality? Well, quality should be defined in a couple different ways. One, the quality of what you're communicating. Like, if you're communicating quality, if it's information that is valuable, it doesn't matter if you have the most expensive camera or the best microphone. Did you communicate something that is of quality? Think about how many, times we've heard someone on the radio who was out, a reporter, for example, a reporter out in the storm, right? If a reporter is telling the storm is coming, you're not worried about how the wind affects his microphone or if the camera is shaky. You're interested in the quality of what they're going to tell you. Is the storm coming? So That's one thing about quality. That's the production side. Another part is the value of what they're saying. So it's production and the value. So to sum up this funnel, top of the funnel awareness stage, quantity over perfection. Quality is
Mhm.
good, but quantity over perfection. Now, when your customer becomes more interested, then once you're in the interest phase, you start to add in more quality, production quality, and the value gets more targeted towards them. You can start building this emotional connection because now you know a bit more about who they are, what they're interested in. And then once you get down to the consideration stage, you're imparting more value about how valuable your solution or product is. You're talking about your product features more. Your production quality goes up because then it becomes more about you. Before it's about the customer, like how does this help you? That's your awareness part. But now, if they're considering buying from you, then you can talk about yourself, talk about your product and your services and how great they are. Your production quality goes up. And then your highest quality content is in the action stage. You want to convince them to buy from you, to take action. And what makes this even better is that you can afford to spend more on higher production quality here because you have the narrow part of the funnel with people who are more likely to buy from you. So think about your acquisition costs. You don't want to spend Hollywood budget when you don't even when you're spraying and praying at the top of the awareness part because you don't know who they are yet. You don't know if they're interested. You don't know if they're going to consider you or not. So spending all that high end money for that is not worth it. But if they're taking about to take action with you and they're the bottom of the so-called funnel and they're talking about your company, now your white papers, your high quality video, your long explainer videos, that's when your highest quality, both in what you're saying and the production quality comes in.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, interesting framework on this. Well, let's move into another concept that you wanted to talk about, it's in the book, and I love this thing, Lee. When I saw it in the book, it just made me think of the quote that I cite often: 88% of B2B buyers will only buy from a trusted advisor, and that comes from Salesforce.com. So, fairly recent statistic as well, post pandemic. So gosh, to get, bigger deals, high consideration deals over the goal line from a sales perspective, the seller needs to be perceived as a trusted advisor for that buyer to buy in 88% of the cases. So, Lee, what do you have to say about that? And what else could you teach us about how to create this paradigm of trusted advisor?
Yeah. So the goal is to get this prospective customer to take an action. So what does that customer need to take an action? Well, let's talk about the individual pieces and why those alone may not get you there. So let's say someone has experience. Let's make a scenario like someone who builds engines for cars. They may have the experience repairing engines, but if you don't know them, they can't influence you. And if they've only built one, they don't have the authority to tell you what engine to put in your assembly line of vehicles. So they only have experience. Now, if they have the authority, again, if you don't know who they are, they're not going to influence you. And they may have the authority, but they could be at an executive level, but don't have the hands-on experience to convince you to make a move. I mean, the CEO of a company, a software company can have the authority to say, hey, our software is the best. But the CTO or the engineer, the programmer has the experience and when that really, if that really works. And then you have the influencer. The influencer, if Kim Kardashian tells me that this is the best engine for my car, I'm not going to believe it. Like, I know who she is. She has extreme influence on lots of things, but I don't know if she has experience or the authority in that space. So, what you're looking for is what you need to have to get the customer to take action is influence by someone with real experience, relatable to your goal, with the authority to lead me in that direction. So, when those three things converge, then you have your trusted advisor, and then the customer takes action.
Absolutely. No, I just think this is so eloquent, and having people think about all three parts of this is if you would, with an infinity diagram in your mind, but you need all three just to make this come together. So really well stated. Well, Lee, we've covered a lot. I'm just thinking maybe we talk, about any concluding remarks, because I know everybody's going to find so much more in your book and just the richness of it. But any other big idea or thought you'd like to leave folks with?
Well, Bruce, I really enjoyed writing the book because it was from so many experiences. And part of my goal in the book was to also walk the line between, helping salespeople, helping marketing people. I'm talking directly to the leadership, the CROs, the CEOs in this book as well. And also wanted to have something in there for the student, the person who is either literally a student in sales or marketing, but also those who are in their careers and want to be better at it. I encountered many marketers and salespeople and even leaders who said, you know what? I don't quite understand what the other department's doing. Why are they doing that? I don't understand what motivates them. How do we connect to them? And so, now from the book and even before the book, I do a lot of speaking on helping these teams understand each other and how do you get the mindset of a revenue team as opposed to a marketing team. I talked to marketers who are like, hey Lee, how do we keep our jobs? How do we justify our place as marketers in this company? And the first thing I tell them is you need to get into the profit center line, learn how to talk sales, learn how to understand what's important to sales, get in those meetings and find out what's important. And then at the same time, part of that is, you know, also sales teams trying to figure out, don't point the finger at to why you don't have the leads you want or why things aren't going smoothly or how can you deal with a changing market. Marketing may have those answers, but
Hmm.
unless you're in a meeting with them, you may not know. So it's to build a revenue team. And to do that, marketers need to step up, sales needs to step up, and their management needs to understand how to stop thinking about these two teams as being separate.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And the beauty of your book is that it helps bridge that divide and bring people together with that shared understanding and perspective, kind of the bigger North Star, revenue growth, and how do we all play a role in making that happen. So well done in laying all that out. So I just want to, highlight for everybody, go grab Lee's book. It's out on Amazon. Yeah, and my proof that I purchased it, Lee, is right there in front of us. But yeah, go grab it. It's awesome, and marinate within it. There's a lot to learn and grow within Lee's book. And then I would encourage you to lead or connect with Lee on LinkedIn. I'm showing his profile for people that can see the YouTube channel, but definitely find him on LinkedIn. And Lee produces content on LinkedIn all the time, and he's one of the thought leaders that you should be following. And Lee, I'm sure you'll welcome people to connect with you and or become part of your 23,000 followers and make that number even bigger. But yeah, I would encourage that. And any other ideas, Lee, for how to connect and interact with you moving forward?
Yeah, so actually the book is being built with the community as well. So you can buy the book also from my website, aleejudge.com. If you do that, then you'll have instant access to our community, which you'll be able to hear the full conversations. So in the book, they are excerpts from conversation with 10 other experts in sales and marketing. And we recorded the audio for that. And so parts of that translated into the book. But then if you're a part of the community, you get to hear the whole conversation. We talked with Joe Polizzi, Mark Schaefer, Seth Godin, Laura Erdem, several people in there, Matt Crisp, who has sold many companies and done well. So in the community, you get a lot more multimedia. I mean, I'm a media person, so I couldn't stop at just written word. So yeah, if you buy from the website from aleejudge.com, you get a chance to get all the other content as well. And if you get it from Amazon, I guess there's a process to let us know you got it from there. And we can also add you to the community from there as well.
Very cool. Well, Lee, on that note, thanks so much for being on the show. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Bruce. Always is. Thanks for having me.
Wow, what a conversation with A. Lee Judge. We covered so much, from the shift in buyer control to the importance of a truly aligned revenue team. One of the biggest takeaways for me is the idea that marketing and sales can no longer afford to operate in silos. If we want to meet buyers where they are, we have to work together seamlessly, providing value at each and every touch point. Lee's cash framework is a powerful way to think about how to break down barriers and create a revenue engine that truly works. If you're in sales or marketing or leading a team in either function, you owe it to yourself to rethink how your teams collaborate. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe to The Value Pro Show. And if you're feeling kind, leave a review so others can find and enjoy it too. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.